Good morning, brothers. JK, your brother in this struggle here, on my way back from the gym. Today we're going to talk about whether all these years you've spent trying to end your out of control behavior with pornography and masturbation, whether they've actually been a waste of time. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. I'm the head coach at Porn Reboot Systems and founder of Elevated Recovery. We help high-performing leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners end their out of control behavior with pornography and masturbation discreetly within 90 days. Before I jump into this video, I'd like to take a moment to really profusely, gentlemen, apologize for the poor quality of the sound of these videos. I'm using my AirPods and my iPhone, but I think the truth is that my baby that has taken me through many trials and tribulations, this girl here, this lady is getting old, okay? So it might be time for an upgrade. Don't worry, I'll still keep you. So the sound is going to improve. So thank you for bearing with me. My team has been dropping captions below so that you guys can read better. So onto the topic of today. Have you been wasting your time? And I was talking to one of my clients in the intensive program. In the intensive program, you get group coaching and you get one-on-one coaching with me. And this was a one-on-one coaching session. And this dude is heading towards his late 20s. You know, he's 27 years old. And he said, bro, like, I'm heading towards my middle reboot. And he's like, I still have issues with some early reboot traits, right? So for those of you who are new to the channel, when you are rewiring your brain from a behavior with pornography and masturbation, you go through several stages when you're using the Porn Reboot system. So we have the pre-reboot, the early reboot, middle reboot, late reboot, and the maintenance stage, right? And each of these have certain characteristics. But this brother was stuck and he felt that, he's like, man, he's like, I got everything right. So just so you know, before you move from the early reboot stage to the middle reboot stage, there are 3 requirements that you have to, basically you have to reach these 3 requirements. The first is you have to trust yourself and the system. The second one is that you need to understand withdrawal symptoms. You need to know what's a withdrawal symptom when you're experiencing it, understand how to deal with it. And the third one is that you need to learn how to be accountable and start shining a light on the shame that's holding you back. And understand that the power of accountability is that it's actually going to give you focus, it's going to give you visibility, it's going to give you clarity, it's going to help you take more action and make progress. That's the power of accountability. Long story short, he was stuck in the trusting yourself part. He trusted the system, but he didn't trust himself. So we started going back to visit this. Turns out, like about 8-9 years ago, this brother was a regular on the site of the late, great Gary Wilson, Your Brain on Porn. Some of you guys are familiar with that site. So, you know, he was involved with that community and he was involved with NoFap community. And these were great communities. The only issue is that there was no end goal in sight. It was just like, do these things. Pornography is very bad for you. Compulsive masturbation is bad for you. Your brain will rewire and you will live happily ever after. However, nobody was taught how to define their reboot. Nobody was told that for some guys it would take longer, for some guys it would take shorter. There was no clarity on this. So for that reason, when a lot of brothers defined their reboot, their definition of their reboot was very simple. Of rewiring their brain and quitting porn was, I will completely stay off pornography and masturbation forever. Even if it wasn't that, right? Let's say you're there, well, that really wasn't my thing, JK. My question to you is, did you clearly define it? Did you sit down and say, when I have accomplished this and this, I will consider myself to be rebooted? For yourself, not based on the definition of a therapist, a 12-step group, NoFap, Your Brain on Porn, or JK, right? Did you define it for yourself? And the truth is that you probably didn't. You probably did not sit down and define the exact criteria for recovery or rebooting for yourself. And that is where the problem lies. Because what he realized is that he spent years and years and years measuring himself by the barometer of, am I permanently off pornography? That's a big problem, gentlemen, because you can still rewire even if you slip here and there. A slip does not mean the end of the world. You go for 1 year and in that 1 year you slip twice. Do you start from the beginning again? No, you don't. If you plant a seed in the garden and the seed doesn't produce a tomato sapling in 3 or 4 days, do you dig up the seed and plant it somewhere else? No, you chill out. You make sure there are no pests. You make sure there are no weeds growing around there. You make sure it has adequate sunlight, adequate fertilizer. You realize that, oh, okay, I'm growing a garden for the first time. I'm a newbie at this. You study and you understand. You're like, how long does it take for this tomato seed to actually germinate, and so on. But many of you guys are not doing that with your reboot. Long story short, he said that this has absolutely crushed his self-esteem, and this may have crushed yours. Have you been telling yourself that if I don't stay off pornography for 90 days, if I slip even once, then I suck? Of course you're going to have low self-esteem. So the point with this is that he had spent so much time basing his self-esteem on his behavior with pornography that he missed out on building up his self-esteem and basing it on other things. I went back into my past, and you know what I realized? While I was struggling with this behavior with pornography, I realized something. I was like, shit, this might take more than a year. This might take 2 years. What else can I accomplish in those year to 2 years that is going to build up my self-esteem? Because, yeah, quitting porn is wonderful, but if I don't have any self-esteem, that shit would suck. So I decided to work on building up my body. Got myself a mentor, learned how to do that, became jacked. Right? Figured out how to build my body and keep a lean, muscular physique. That's what I mean by jacked for myself. I learned how to get good with women. You know, started working with dating coaches. Back in those days, it was the heyday of the pickup artists. Now you can't do that the way it used to be done. But I started working with some coaches to learn how to meet women. Thankfully, I stepped beyond that and learned how to operate and how to have systems for long-term happy relationships. I worked on that. So building up my body definitely built up my self-esteem. Building up my relationships with women, having casual sex, intimate sex with multiple different women definitely built up my self-esteem. Still, I was making progress in my behavior with pornography. I noticed, wow, when I built up my body, when I learned how to talk to women, my reboot got even better. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. So I don't need to focus on this. I've been feeling like shit all this time when I could have put on muscle. I could have learned how to talk to women and actually started having sex. That also had a huge impact on my reboot. Now, I want you to understand, while I was doing these things, while I was building up my body, trying to approach women and so on and so forth, I was still slipping. But the difference is that I wasn't falling as low into that pit of remorse and depression that I was prior to this. And then I looked at the next thing as my reboot started improving. Now, unbeknownst to me, I was now entering the late stage of my reboot, but I didn't know this. I was like, you know what? So I got the body down. Finally, I can confidently, for me, I'll be honest with you, when it came to women, for me, the line was, I wanted to know that I could go out maybe 3 to 4 times in a week to a bar or a lounge or freaking Whole Foods or wherever, and I could meet a woman, get her number, and get on a date, or I could bring her home with me. That was my standard back then, not now. I'm just letting you know. So once I was able to do that consistently, and in over a period of a month, 2 months, 3 months, I could go back, I could meet a woman, form a deep connection with her. Yes, you can form a deep connection in a short amount of time, and be intimate with her. I was like, fine. I had defined my dating experience because now I was ready to be in a long-term relationship. I did not have the fear and the insecurity a man would have going into a long-term relationship because I knew if that relationship ended, I could walk out there, I'd be a little bit rusty, but I could still get another woman if I wanted to. I had the body that I wanted. I got that shit down. I wasn't worrying, oh, will I get a six-pack, 90 days to a six-pack. I figured that shit out. What was the next thing? The next thing was to get my money straight. I needed to have a career. I needed to have a mission. I needed to have something that was going to help me feel like, you know what? I got the body. I got the relationship, just the basics, guys, and I can take care of myself and my loved ones. I could take care of my aging parents. If there was an emergency, I could take care of things. I wanted to finish paying my tuition and get out of college. I wanted to have nice things in life. I wanted to have freedom to travel. I wanted to be able to help other people. There were all these charitable causes that I was always fantasizing about donating to and doing something about, but I couldn't do them without money. So I worked on that area of my reboot capital. Guess what? Boom. I jumped from the late stage into the maintenance stage. My self-esteem through the roof. Everything was working out. So my question to you, brother, is I'm not saying you guys have not been working on dating. I'm not saying you've not been working on your finances, and I'm not saying you haven't been hitting the gym. But my question to you that I want to leave you guys with today is, have you been basing the majority of your self-esteem on whether you watch pornography or whether you masturbate or not? Because the irony of this whole thing, and the reason why you will hear me sometimes rail against other system and 12 steps and all these other things, is because they do not focus enough on the other parts of a man's life. A man. We are men. There are certain things that we have to accomplish in our lives before we can fix the deeper issues. But we live in this new therapeutic society where everyone is like going in to the inner child and all that shit. That takes time. There's nothing wrong with that. Those things are valid. Take care of your basic needs, or while you're busy looking for the root cause, sitting down and crying and patting the little inner child on his head, you're still going back home from your therapist's couch. You're still seeing the dudes who are with the hot girls. You're still getting ghosted by the other girls. You still can't make your bills. You don't even know how you're going to pay the therapist. You're still fucking up. You still look at yourself in the mirror and hate the body you see. You're following other dudes who are jacked on Instagram because you wish you could be like them and live their life. Motherfucker, what of your life? My friends, my brothers, gentlemen, please start working on yourself and don't fall into this trap. I was so glad that I and this brother figured it out. I know he's gonna crush it because this dude is a stud. He's in the intensive program. Love him very much. But it was a trip down memory lane for me. And I told him I was gonna record a podcast on it and put out a video to our brothers on YouTube. So gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Now, a few days ago, I released a training called 7 Habits of Porn-Free Men. Not 7 Secrets, 7 Habits, and this is based on 10 years of experience. 10 years of working with clients. We've worked with over 15,000 men. I'm not saying 15,000 men are on my email list or 15,000 of the guys who podcast. These are dudes who have spoken to myself, my coaches, who have been through our programs in a decade, since 2012, November 2012 to be specific. I did something I've never done before, and you'll find out at the end of that free training. In fact, the free training itself is fucking awesome. We had a great time. Thank you to all of those that showed up. Now, below this video, the only link I'm gonna leave here today is a link to that training. Go ahead and watch that training. I'll talk to you guys later on in the week. Bye.
Whenever you're ready, here are 4 ways that Porn Reboot can help you out for free. The first way is to subscribe to our channel and make sure you click on the notification bell to get a new video every other day. The second way is to get a copy of the free book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men. You'll learn about my personal struggle and the lessons I've learned over a decade, as well as strategies for putting together your porn reboot plan and ending your compulsive behavior with pornography or masturbation. So click on the link in the description below this video. The third way is if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, guys who work in sales, consulting, or high-level jobs, men who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's also a link to join in the description below this video. And finally, if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, you want to be an authentic man and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, click on the link in the description below this video that says free coaching call, or visit elevatedrecovery.org and click on the link which says book a call.